Western culture and Eastern culture. Both share the same world, but why are we so different? Historically, the Western and the Eastern culture had his problems and his difference. Even currently, we had economic war. But in a globalized world like this, the differences are less, or no? Well, to begin, we need different Eastern and Western culture. Eastern culture includes Asia and the Middle East, while the Western culture includes South and North America, European countries, New Zealand and Australia. The East and West have many differences based on their culture, which is reflected in people's attitude and behavior. When a comparison between Eastern and Western culture is made, one of the key differences between Western and Eastern culture is that countries in the West are more liberal than countries in the East. Western culture allows people to be more open and critical. They discuss subjects that are considered taboo in Eastern culture, and they are allowed to show their emotions and bad anger if they think they should. This sort of behavior wouldn't take place in Eastern culture. People prefer to approach difficult situations by using good manners and tact, not aggression. A second Eastern and Western culture comparison is a person from the West is more free and flexible to reach decisions on his or her own, unlike what happens in the East, where families make more decisions collectively. Thirdly, arranged marriages are not a key feature of Western culture, as love is considered to be the way that people tie the marital knot. Now, we can see the difference even in the education. Creativity versus hard work. Western educational system focus on the ideas of creativity. Obviously, the system being a system means that numerous things are abound, but still, it normally does its best to elevate the individual approach to deal with various students. In Eastern education, however, it is all about hard work and struggle. Nothing is difficult if you practice hard. Consequently, kids are given lots of homework and are instructed to buckle down. That is the reason why most Asian students, more often than not, are better performers academically than their peers when they get into the more casual Western educational institutions. Another thing is participation versus reception. Western education much further and facilitate a more interactive training procedure where students are encouraged to participate actively. They are urged to think critically, to make inquiries and engage in fruitful debates with their instructors. Though in East, students are beneficiaries, they submit to the authority of teacher and the method itself is far less interactive. Even in the field of special needs, students had our difference: inclusion versus separation. Western education makes incredible efforts to integrate kids with special needs into the general mass of students. It is considered a major right to be educated together with other kids. In East, we normally see a more exclusive approach where kids with special needs are quite often taught separately from the rest. It isn't taught to be unfair, just logical. Another important thing to discuss is about the culture itself. Western culture tends to make a culture about me, about everyone take care of himself or herself. For example, in a restaurant, everyone take a meal they wanted, and when the meal arrives, everyone eat his own meal. In the other hand, in the Eastern culture, to start, the table has to be bigger because you sit down with a lot of your peers, like family, your mother, your father, your cousins, all your family sits in the same table to eat. And in this culture, all plan what them going to eat. They order a lot of meals and they share all the meal. The meal is in the center of the table and everyone share the same meal, different than Western culture. Another example is when you arrive late to a date. In Western culture, tend to think that the fate is thing of a person, is the responsibility of a person. If you arrive late in the Western culture, the other person tends to think that you are late because you are sleeping or maybe you are lazy. In the other hand, in the Eastern culture, they think that if you arrive late, it's because the traffic, it's because another thing that don't depend on you. It should be clarified that not because they belong to a culture, all individuals will be in the same way. For example, The Latins are like we, and the Germans are like me, and both are Western cultures. And in the same way, many Asians can be like me culture. To finish, we can only ask ourselves what is the best culture, and in the answer, it's neither of the two, because every culture has his own pros and his contras, and it is the beautiful of the world and the globalized world. You can learn things about other cultures, and it makes you bigger and better mentally and culturally. Just be patient and open-minded with other cultures, and you may meet a lot of interesting people and interesting things in other countries.